Hello everybody, this is Peter from BurgZerg Arcade at BurgZergArcade.net, and today we're going to continue on with our item system. So let's go ahead and open up Unity. I've already got the project opened, and we'll go ahead and open up Visual Studio since we have that as well. Now, the next step is usually I just go through and start refactoring the list view, but there's been quite a few comments on YouTube about people, basically doing their own refactoring. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that a little bit, let people go ahead and try their own hand at refactoring. We just finished covering how to integrate Unity with Git, so go ahead, make a fork, try it yourself, and then when I come back to refactor, you can compare how you did things versus the way I did things. And not necessarily a right way or a wrong way, it could just be two different ways. But anyway, I do want to move on, and I did want to point one thing out here. Since the way we're adding things now, rid of that. Is through the list view. We no longer need this function, but I don't want to delete it just yet because we are going to be using a function similar to that. And we'll just keep the code because we could probably just cut and paste it then. But I have gone ahead and commented out the add quality database. We will be getting rid of it eventually, just not yet. And of course, the call we already had commented out. We're no longer going to need the selected item, at least not for this part of the editor. And of course, we can get rid of it up here. The rest we still need. But I wanted to point that out because I did go ahead and comment it out already. And of course, when I'm talking about refactoring, I'm talking about the quality script here. There's not a whole lot here. We just have a couple methods. Actually, there's one more method I want to add here, which is an overloaded method for the constructor. And I just want to be able to pass in the name and the icon as well. And of course, we'll just go ahead and say name is equal to name. And let's actually get it right. Icon is equal to icon. And the only other one I can think of that we'd probably want to add would be passing in a texture and assigning that texture to the sprite, but I'm not going to add that one. Helps if we spell it right. That's the only other one I think I wanted to add here. Now, if it wasn't such a minor script, I'd go ahead and probably get rid of the getters, but again, I don't want to refactor. I'm looking at it already, starting to plan out what I want to do. But anyway, let's move on. Well, next we're going to go to, there was a little bit of confusion about some of the naming conventions that I was using on ISObject. And the reason why I had the IS, which really should be ISO, when you have a lot of different interfaces and you're going to be having objects that inherit from multiple interfaces. Let's take this name for instance. If I just said name in this interface and I have another interface and it has a name as well and I just called it name, when I go to inherit from both of them, there's going to be a bit of a collision because it's not going to know what name to take. So that's why I prefix them, because I know the item, this iOS object, could potentially be inherited with another interface. Now we can set it up differently where it doesn't, but for now I'm going to go ahead and leave that there. But that's why, just so that you have a distinction between different names, or method names, I should say. And with that done, since I'm in here, I want to go ahead and start looking at destructible items. So we're going to need a couple methods here. And let's go and create that script now. I'm going to come back down into interface. And ISS, we'll just say destructible. And of course, we'll open that up. Gotta reload everything. And I'm gonna go ahead and just grab the namespace from before. I might as well copy that first bracket as well. I'm gonna go ahead, paste it here. I guess I could have just got rid of everything in the middle here since we're not gonna be using any of it. And this will be an interface. And we're not inheriting from anything. I just like my classes. I'll leave it like this because it's the way Visual Studio likes it. All right, so we've got a few methods here that we're going to need. One is, well, if something is destructible, I want to have some sort of durability to it. And let me go ahead and actually jump right into, I think we're done with quality, at least for now. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all the quality stuff off of here. So we can go ahead and take care of both of these. So I'm going to have durability when I create the object. That means you have to be able to track it. So int durability. And this is one of those things, I think I'm not going to, we're going to go a little bit more advanced than we did last time around. And this time we're going to only have a getter for it, so you can't actually set the durability this way. And we're also going to want an int max durability. Same thing. We're going to have when the item is first created, it gets a max durability, and then there's no way to modify it outside of, well, itself. I'm going to have a void. I'm going to need something where you adjust the durability. And I was going to call it take damage, but yeah, let's just do that. I keep thinking about if you want to heal it. Let's say you have like a whetstone or something, or something that heals an item. You can just pass in negative take damage, but then I like a more descriptive name. So, you know, adjust durability. For now, I'm going to stick with take damage, and it's going to take an int amount. Sometimes I'm just going to want to break a weapon, or not necessarily a weapon, but an item. Maybe upon use it breaks. And I might want to call that from outside of itself. But that's not going to take anything. And let's add one more method for repairing. Now, the way I want it to work when I repair an item is that you run the risk of damaging its max durability. So let's say your item starts off at 100 max durability. And of course, it's brand new, so it starts off at 100 of 100. As you go along, I'm going to use a weapon here, for instance, just for example. It could be armor. It could be anything that you want to have durability on. But you go ahead and, you're swinging away, and it's getting lower and lower and lower. And, eventually you want to repair it. Now, there's going to be a chance that you damage its max durability. And of course, when an item reaches a max durability of 0, it just cannot be used. But I want a method I can call that just says, to repair it. And nothing's going to be passed into that. I just know I want a public method for that. And I think that's it for destructible, that interface. And I'm pretty sure I can construct this without actually having to have any of these prefaces. So I'll go ahead and change them, because I know it has caused a little bit of confusion for some people in the comments. So we'll change them. But I am keeping the interface names the same. And of course, we'll do value. There we go. We went ahead and removed all of those. Now looking at this, I see a few other things that we are going to want to implement. Some items are going to be able to stack, and we don't have a way to do that yet. So let's go ahead and we'll create an interface for that next. And again, for those that are wondering why I'm using so many interfaces, there's a lot of people new to programming, fairly new anyway, and for things that we're going to have a lot of classes of, to me, it's just easy to be able to open up an interface and go, okay, here's all the public stuff that I can use for it. But we'll go ahead and create one for stackables. And for those that are wondering how we're going to be using the interfaces later on, it's really great being able just to see, like, say you put something in your inventory and you could say, hey, is this stackable? And if it is stackable, if it inherits from the interface stackable, then we know we can go ahead and just try to find one in the backpack, and if it's not its max stack, go ahead and put it with that one. Well, I was kind of hoping I still had this with it. Namespace. And we're just going to keep going through. This would be an interface. Rid of the guts. Actually, I guess we could just go like that. Oh, no, we'll get rid of them all. This will be here, formats everything nicely for us. All right, so if something's stackable, the first thing you need to know is stack size, and I guess the max stack size. So int stack size. I'm trying to think if I want to add to this or just have it be just return. So it could be one of those things that we send in. Of course, we wouldn't want to call it stack size. And I like this way. So the way it's going to work is that we can set it up to, so we'll set it up to have a default value of 0. So if they don't pass in an amount, it's automatically 0. And what we're going to do is add that to the stack, and we'll always return an integer as well. And then of course we're going to have an int max. stack. And this is just going to be a get. And it's just, I like the getters and setters above the stuff that actually takes values in. And I think that's it for this one here. I'll go ahead and save that off. And let's go back to my list here. And let's do the prefab one next. I know that the idea behind this was that I wanted to have items that, like a sword, for instance, or any sort of weapon or armor. When you, well, not necessarily armor, but at least weapons, when you equip them, there's some sort of game object in game that is associated with it. So maybe even you want to get as detailed as maybe when you equip an earring, there's a certain game object that has to spawn in the world. And for that, we want to have prefab set up for it, or at least something, some game object, not necessarily a prefab, but a game object that we're going to equip for it. So we'll go ahead, we'll make that next. So I'm going to come down, make another interface. And it does represent a game object in game, so I'm just going to call it IS game object, so that I know it's a game object and it's also part of my item system. Of course, we'll go ahead, reload all, yeah, correct those line endings. Which means I have to save the old one, but which is fine, because I want to go over here and do a copy anyway on the namespace, just so I know I'm getting that right. And take out the guts. And change it to an interface. And get rid of the inheritance. So only thing that we're really going to return here is a game object. I'm going to call the method prefab. Actually, do I want it to be able to assign it here? We know we need a get. I'm deciding if I want to set it here. I don't think so. For now, we'll just keep things simple. Like I said, we're going to be refactoring all this stuff anyway. This is mostly just for brainstorming stuff. Okay, so we've got that one done now. So now we have the ability, well, to implement an interface that equips an actual physical game object. And speaking of equipping stuff, we're going to need an interface for that, because we want to be able to say, hey, is this equipable? And if so, we want to equip it. So we'll go ahead, we'll jump back into Unity. Lots of scripts being made today. So IS equipable. And of course, done this a few times now. You should be getting used to that. And I can already think of another interface that we want. Again, it's something that I usually make a enum for, but we're going to be using an actual class for it this time, because we want everything to be in an editor for this example. So we're going to want to know where to equip it. I'm going to call this equipment slot for now. I know I'm going to want to have a method called equip, which I'm just deciding if I want to return anything with it. I don't think so. Yeah, we're going to return a bool. We're not going to pass anything yet. So basically, if it's not equipped, we can check, say, hey, if this is not equipped, equip it. Now, if it is equipped, unequip it. So when the person is clicking on it, basically, this is the method we're going to call. But let's also work on this equipment slot. Now, I know the equipment slots that I want for my game are going to be completely different than the equipment slots for your game. And like I said, I usually created a enum for this and just reference the enum. But since we're building everything with an editor, we're going to go ahead and make it its own class. So we'll go ahead, we'll jump back into Visual Studio, Unity. We'll create another C# script. And I'm just going to call this, I've been missing the other I's and the interfaces up here. I'm going to have to go ahead and fix that. IIS equipment slot. I will open that up. And close that. So let's go ahead and we'll fix these. My bad, I completely screwed that one up. We're going to have to rename them in a few spots, but I'm going to start here. And on Windows, you got to hit Control F2 to rename. User interfaces, they need 9. Okay, I thought there was more than one. You can also do like a slow double click to get it. I can never get the timing right. All right. And did I just do the wrong one? Yeah, this was supposed to be IS. Didn't even see my change folders. Stop loading it. Interfaces. I'm so used to being able to just right click and hit rename. So IIS equipable. IIS stackable. Quality object, game object. Okay, we got them. Looks like we got them all. I'll probably have to reopen some of these in Visual Studio. Right now we're working on equipment slot, so we'll go ahead and open that up. Some will disappear. All right, we got it though. Yeah, good. We still have this namespace in there. It's gonna be one of those days. And apparently I screwed that up too. So it's an interface, and it's called IIS equipment slot. No inheritance. And we have string. We'll just call it name. I want to call it slot name, but we're just going to go ahead and call it name. And again, to refactor, we're just going to use a get and a set. Part of me wants to associate an int with this as well, so we can reference them by integers, but we're going to go ahead and just leave it like that. We can also do another sprite here, so that when we're putting up basically our paper doll of our character, when we hit the inventory button, we know what icons to display there according to the sprite, and I think we will do that. So this is building this up. You should be able to do it on your own, simply because it's almost an exact clone of our quality database. So sprite, icon, and watch out for that button. Okay, that's good enough for now. If we need more, we can come back to it. I want to go back to, well, this can't open that anymore. Or that one. Or that one. Okay, we'll come back to equipable, and now we can put this here. So it's going to be, oh, we need the class for it too, because I don't want to return the interface. I want to return a class. So I'm going to go ahead and create the class for, now we'll do the equipment slot one now. We'll create a new C# script. Item system, equipment slot. Did I get it spelled right? Yep, reload it all. Okay, so we'll be switching back to Mac OS soon. Yay for me. And it's the environment that I'm used to. Of course, now I'm getting used to having my muscle memory for the hotkeys, hitting Control and Command, but we'll relearn that. So this is going to inherit from the interface IIS equipment slot, and let's go ahead and we'll implement. And I forgot how much I hate this. The way it formats it. That's okay. We need to make some variables up here. So they're going to be private, but I do want them to be serialized. And first one is string underscore name. Phew, if I leave a space there, it doesn't drop it down to the next line. Great. So I'll get another serialized field. This time we're going to do a sprite. And I'm going to call it icon. That way we can just return the name. Good. This, and set. I'm just going to say that the name is equal to whatever value is passed in here. And the same thing here. Return icon. And for set, we'll say that the icon is equal to the value passed in, not the value, the value. And that's done, and now we can just reference it. What's wrong here? Oh, it's just reloaded how to save the line endings. All right, so this is going to return an IS equipment slot. And you could return the interface as well, but I just want to be a little bit more concrete, a little bit more specific in returning the actual class that's going to implement the equipable. I'm just going to call it equipment slot. And this is one of those areas that we are never ever going to change the equipment slot of something while the game is running. So we really only need get, because you'd set the equipment slot up when you actually create the item. So like if you make a helmet, you're not going to later on, unless you want it in your game, or later on you can remold it, make a boot out of it or something, in which case you might want the set there. But for us, we don't need it there. So we've got the equipment slots, equipable. And just looking over at the time, we've actually got quite a bit done. Let's go ahead, we'll stop it here. And if I get more time later on today, I'll go ahead and try to make some more. And actually, before we do, I do want to create a folder. I want to start separating these out because I'm going to be making a bunch of small editors just to keep them small, easier to learn from, to go back and reference. But in the end, we should end up with just one editor that has all these different tabs on it. That's my goal anyway. So for now, I want to keep them all small, so I want to keep them all in their own folder. So this was what, the quality one? So IS quality editor. And I'm just going to move those files into it for our editor files. And I will create another folder because I know the next one we're going to work on is the, well, we've got a couple here. We're going to have the IS equipment slot editor. And we're also going to have the IS object editor. And before we go, I just want to take a look to see if we have IS object started. We do have it started. All right. Now we're going to have different implementations. We're going to have one that inherits from iOS object, like for instance, a weapon will inherit from IO or IS object, but also inherit from, like, it's equipable, so we're going to have to inherit from that. It has durability, it can be damaged and broken, so we're going to have to inherit from that. Well, we'll get to that as we get along, but you can see how all these things are going to start fitting together. Hopefully you can see that. All right, well, let's go ahead and we'll end this here. I'm going to end up babbling on and on and on, and and we're not going to get anything done. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.